and welcome to tonight's Mountain Monday series. We are very pleased that you are able to be with us here live and in person, and also streaming live via our Robinson Center access. And so we are very pleased that we are able to do this tonight. Tonight, I think that you are going to enjoy what we're going to be talking about. Tonight's presentation is on storytelling, and storytelling is something that's very dear to my heart. I am a former competitive storyteller, and so I still really enjoy listening to stories and telling them as well. Tonight we have a special guest presenter who will be actually telling us at least two, maybe more, depending upon if she feels like going on with that. We will allow that for sure. We have Gwenda Johnson. Gwenda is the Family Consumer Science Agent in Elliott County, Kentucky. But Gwenda is also a juried storyteller, and she will be able to tell you more about the process that she went through to become a storyteller as well. I am nowhere near a juried storyteller. Mine is pure as an avocation. One of the things we wanted to start with tonight is getting you to think about what storytelling is. Now, there is a difference between storytelling and what we would consider traditional acting. Acting comes from a script, and usually if you are acting a scene or doing a monologue or a solo piece or any other type of scripted narrative that you are presenting to a group, you have to do it word for word, and to make sure that you keep the essence of the author's intent. And so when you are acting, you can make sure that you are presenting that character to others in the way that the author specifically requested. A storyteller is not an actor. A storyteller is a speaker. And a storyteller can get their ideas from nature. And I get that from this evening when Gwenda and I were here earlier. We had the opportunity to see the most beautiful sunset ever. And I'm sure in her mind, as in mine, because of our topic for tonight, we both could have brainstormed and come up with some ideas about telling a story about the beautiful sunset that we saw tonight. But a storyteller talks from the heart and speaks from the heart. And usually loves the story and has a connection to the story in some way that they are going to present. And so a lot of times a storyteller does not use a scripted narrative or a scripted piece. And that's what one of the major differences is between an acting piece and a storytelling piece. There are a lot of other differences as well, and so what I want us to do tonight is really enjoy being here together. I am going to enjoy hearing the stories that my friend and co-worker will be presenting. I'm glad that we have some people in the audience, because a storyteller gets their energy from the people to whom they are speaking. And so that is why I've asked her, or Gwenda and I discussed that she's going to be right here on the floor presenting to you instead of on the stage. Because you can always tell a good storyteller because they want to be as close to their audience as possible. So I'm going to sit down for a while, and I'm going to turn it over to Gwenda, and she's going to tell us all about storytelling, her background, her training, and then tell us some story.
That was very good, Chuck, about what storytelling is and how storytellers relate to their audiences. Storytelling is as old as these old mountains that are surrounding us here tonight. In the caves and in the pyramids, there are stories drawn on the walls. what happened during that time period. But here in these mountains, some of the oldest mountains in the world where we live, storytelling is a tradition. It's how we learn about our past. It's how we've learned how to do things. It was a form of entertainment for as far back as anybody here or any of my parents or grandparents can remember. Because in the hills and in the mountains, there wasn't a whole lot to do. And that's why we have such talented people in the arts, in the music, in storytelling. We created our entertainment. And to a big extent, we still do. So storytelling is really deep in the roots here in Appalachia. And that's why so many of our storytellers are coming from the mountains, because it's born in them. Storytelling, as Chuck said, is different from reading a script. A storyteller does not memorize the story. Every time they tell that story, it could be a little bit different. Something else might pop into their mind. I left that out last time, or I want to change that. It didn't work too well. So they get up and they tell the story. The first story I want to tell tonight, I want to tell for our young people. And it is a folk tale. And there's all different kinds of stories, and we'll talk about that. But we have some young people in the audience. So I want to tell a story about a black bear. Why does brown bear, why does the bear sleep all winter? Well, once upon a time, up on this hill right here beside us, there was a little rabbit. And about this time of year, in October, November, this little rabbit, well, she was going around and she was collecting her food. And she'd find a hole in the ground and she'd bury it. Or she'd find an old rotting stump and she'd put it in there. There was this old brown bear. And he liked to play tricks on me. So when he would find where Rabbit was putting her food, he'd steal it. And then Rabbit would come back to get her food and she wouldn't have anything. She said, I've got to help. I've got to find some help. Brown bear, he's tricking me, and that just ain't fair. So Rabbit decided to seek some help. So she goes out to the pond. She says, I know. Frog can help me. So she goes out to the pond, and it's all covered with lily pads. But she sees Frog, and he's sitting there on it. All you can see is his eyes up over it. And she goes, Frog! Frog! Brown bear, he's the one. He's tricking me, and it ain't fun. And she says, help me stop Brown Bear, because he really is tricking me, and it ain't fair. Frog. Ribbit. Ribbit, I really don't know how to stop the bear, but I know who can help us. I bet Mo. He can help us. So Rabbit and Frog, they go hopping through the woods looking for Mo. And they see this little trail going right through the dirt. And Rabbit says, Mo! Mo! Help me, stop Brown Bear. He's tricking me and it ain't fair. And pop, look comes the Mo. And you know, he's got that big long nose. So he kind of has to talk like this. He says, well, a bear? A big bear? You want me to do something with a big bear? Well, I don't know if I can do that, but I bet Squirrel. Squirrel can help us. So Rabbit and Frog and Mo, they go hopping through the forest looking through Squirrel. And Rabbit's looking at it, and all of a sudden she sees something hop from one tree to the other. And then she looks around, she goes, Squirrel! Squirrel! Help me! Stop Brown Bear! He's tricking me and when he talks, he goes, "Me? You want me to take over a big brown bear? I don't think that can, but I know who can. I bet the wise old fox. The wise old fox, he can." So he comes down from the tree and he gets behind Mole and Rabbit and Frog and Mole and Squirrel, goes through the forest looking for Fox. Well, when they find the fox, he's leaned up against the tree. He just knew they were coming to him, and he says, "What can I do for y'all today?" And Rabbit says, "Fox, Fox, help me, stop Brown Bear. He's tricking me, and it ain't fair." Fox says, "Well, yes, you've come to the right person. I believe I can help you. Where is that Brown Bear?" So Rabbit and Mole and Squirrel and Frog and Fox go through the forest looking for the bear. Well, in the meantime, old bear, he's getting pretty sleepy. He wants a nap. So he finds this old hollow log. And he says, "I believe I can crawl in there, and I believe I can take a nap." So that's what he did. He crawled in that log, and he went to sleep. Well, Frog and Rabbit and the whole entourage came upon him. And Fox says, "Now I believe what we need to do is, Mole, you go get some dirt. Squirrel, you get some of them leaves from up there at the top. Frog, you go get some of that mud out of that pond. And Rabbit, you make sure it's all brought back right here." So they all went their separate ways. And they gathered everything that the fox wanted. And when they brought it back, he mixed it all together. It's like making some kind of concrete or something like that. And he stopped up both ends of that log. And he stopped up all the holes in that log. And he said, "I believe the bear will be fine now. So let's just go about our duties." So Bear, he just laid in there. When he wake up, it's still nighttime. I thought I'd been asleep all night long. And he just rolled over and he went back to sleep. And he did that several times. And then he woke up and he saw a little ray of sunshine come through that old log. And he got up and he knocked the end out of that and he went out. The wildflowers were all in bloom. The dogwoods were in bloom, and the redbuds were in bloom. And he goes, "Oh, don't know what happened. Must have slept all winter long for all this stuff to happen. And you know what? It felt so good, I'm going to do it every year." And that's why the brown bear sleeps all winter long. When you tell a story, you have to connect to that story in some way. Of course, I was 4-H agent for 20 years, and one of my strongest topics was public speaking. And when you teach someone to do a speech, you're basically teaching them the storytelling skills. It's just a different information that you're given. So that story, how I connected to it, of course, it's a children's story, it's a folk tale, but it's about animals that live in our hills. It's about our local animals and our local critters. Now, is that how the brown bear came to sleep all winter? I'm not going to say. That's for the listener to decide. The storyteller tells the story. Are all stories true? Maybe not. Maybe so. Maybe some of it is, some's not. That's for the listener to decide. So storytelling can be as broad or as narrow. Sometimes stories can go for a half hour. At the storytelling conferences, you have a limit of 10 minutes. And when that 10 minutes is up, They stop you. And then they have what's called a story slam, and that's just 5 minutes. You have to tell a story in 5 minutes. And then if there's a tie, you have to tell a story in 3 minutes, and you're judged. So you really have to have those stories narrowed down and know what you want to say about the storytelling. The connection with your stories can be very personal. I love to tell stories about our culture in eastern Kentucky and in the hills. I grew up in McGoffin County, just whichever way it is. Down Route 30, you can be at my parents' house in a very short time. So the culture of eastern Kentucky and the mountains is very important to me. I feel that we've got some negative publicity that I would like to, through storytelling, just say, hey, get to know us. Learn who we are before you judge us. And I think storytelling is a great avenue to do that. Storytellers may have a niche. Octavia Sexton, who is one of Kentucky's big storytellers, she's from South Central Kentucky. She likes to tell jack tales. And she works in a lot of the schools. She's been working in Breathitt County schools and Perry County schools and a lot of the schools. Then there's Mary Hamilton. Mary does a lot of Kentucky folk tales. So people do different things. Pam Holcomb from Harlan County, who was my mentor, she does a lot of Brer Rabbit stories. But then she does a lot of stories about coal mining. And since she is a retired school teacher, she's got lots of stories about students that she has worked into very entertaining stories. So storytellers do different things, and they get their own niche. Bill Lett out of, I think he's from Charleston, West Virginia, he writes his own tall tales. And they're as tall as anything I've ever heard. And he does it so that you believe them. And then there's Sheila K. Adams, who I've listened to. She was one of the first professional storytellers I've ever listened to. And one year we drove all the way down to North Carolina just for her homecoming to hear her.